All right. So far, we've done a lot of HTML stuff, and it's been pretty cool so far, but our site is kind of boring at the moment. We might want to consider maybe adding an image or two. And so in this video, we are going to learn how to add an image from both your computer and from the internet. So the first thing we're going to want to do is create an image tag, and then we need to find a source, a URL. We can either give it a relative link, which is what we learned about in the last video, or we can give it an absolute link, an exact link to some other link on the internet, and we're going to demonstrate both. Images also come with a height and width and alt and title and all sorts of attributes, so we're going to explore a bunch of these different routes as well. So let's get started with that by creating our HTML template, and then inside of our body, we are going to add an image tag. So I have my editor open here, and I'm going to create a new file, and I'm going to call it images, I guess, .html. And in here, I'm going to create HTML, head, title, and in the title, I'm going to it's called images, I guess, body, and we want an image here. Let's go ahead and add that doc type now that we know about doc types as well. And let's open up this file in Firefox. So we want an image here. Pretty boring page. We've seen this 100 times already. So let's explore this tag, this element, this HTML element. We have an image in here, and for short, we call it img, image. When I hit tab, VS Code automatically wants me to give it a source and an alt. And that is just a good practice. But we can also give it a title. We can also give it a width, and we can also give it a height. And there are a bunch of other things that we can give it, but these are the 5 attributes that we're going to work with today. So I'm going to save that and refresh our page, and we see nothing in here. There's no image. Let's explore the alt tag first because this one makes sense. So let's give it a source of https google.com. Now this needs to be an image, and this is not an image. This is just a link. We'll talk about that in just a second. When I refresh the page, you can actually see, let me zoom in here, we have a broken image. Well, that's not really good. Now, what happens when there's a broken image? Well, it just looks like a broken image. But let's add an alt. Let's say Google image. Now, your alt is your alternate text. If this image cannot be loaded, what text should we load in place of that? And you can actually see here, it says Google image. I can't actually select that text, but it does say just Google image. And that could be literally anything in here. Anything in here. And when I go to refresh the page, again, it just says anything in here because that image does not exist. So let's add a placeholder image, and let's just go to placeholder, not .it.com. We want placeholder.com, and this is just going to generate an image for us. And how do we do that? Don't allow. Sure, cookies are fine. And we really just want this link in here. https via.placeholder.com/150. And that's going to give us a 150 by 150 link, not link, an image. So let's open this up in a new tab. And oh, you can't really even see that. That is very dark. Much better. Okay, maybe 150 is too small. So let's maybe go with 450 by 800. No, let's do the other way around. Let's do 800 by 300. There we go. We have a placeholder image. We can just grab this link. So I'm going to copy that in my editor where it says source. I am simply going to paste that in here. Now, typically, this should have a .jpeg extension. Let's make a list here. .jpeg, .other JPEG, .png, .bmp, .gif. It could be a .apng for an animated PNG. It could be a WebP, which is a relatively new format for super compressed images. Typically, it ends in something like that. Now, because this website already knows how to serve an image, it basically serves a URL as an image. It tricks your browser into thinking that it's an image. But for all intents and purposes, let's stick to this rule. Let's add .jpeg to that URL. So I just copied that over. And let's go ahead and just make sure that this is right. And because this is getting to be a little bit long, let's put this on a bunch of new lines so we can read these all in one view. Something like that. So we've got an image tag. Again, white space doesn't really matter. We have a source going to placeholder, an alt alternate text in case that image does not load, title, width, and height. So let's go ahead and view our page now. And I'm just going to go up here, refresh my page, and we are going to see a big image, and that's because I'm super zoomed in here. And when I zoom out to just 150%, we can see an 800 by 300 image here. So now we know how to add an external image. Now, what happens if we add a title? Let's say placeholder.com image. Refresh our page. And if you place your mouse over it long enough, it will eventually say placeholder.com image or whatever text you want to put in there. Let's give it a max width. Even though this image wants to be 800 pixels wide, let's say it can only actually be 400 pixels wide. So a width of 400. And now you can see that it shrinks and it has kept the height the same, but let's say we really want to skew this and make the height, let's make the height 1000. So we're going to take an 800 by 300 image. That's the width by the height. And we're going to make it short and we're going to make it less wide. And we're also going to make it really tall. So let's save that and refresh. And woo, would you look at that? Really skews it. We could get really weird with this too. So let's do like 400 by, let's do 400 by 200 or 40 by 200. So we can really squish it down here. Now, these are completely optional. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep them as the original. So 800 by 300. So it looks, you know, halfway decent. And now we know how to link to an image on the internet. And again, that goes with what we were learning about links, where it has HTTPS in here. That means it's an external link. Now, what happens if we have an image on our computer that we want to link to? Well, let's go ahead and give this a solid example. Let's right-click, save image as, and in my desktop, I'm going to go to my website where this whole project is being stored, and I'm going to save it as 800x300.jpg. Save. And when I open up my Finder, we've got all these different HTML files, but we also have 800 by 300.jpg. And when I open it, yep, sure enough, there it is. So now, just like a regular link, like a hypertext link, all we have to do is link to the image file itself, the exact file name. So because it's a JPEG, changing this to a PNG is going to break it. So let's break this first. Let's refresh. It's broken. Call this a borked image. It is broken to the max. Doesn't work. And that's because 800 by 300 doesn't exist. And a little bit down the road, I'm going to show you how to debug this, how to figure out if this is working or not. So just bear with me on this one. You might have to struggle for a little bit, but eventually we will get to a video where I'll show you how to diagnose this problem. Let's change that back to a JPEG. Refresh, and there's our image. Now the trick here, and this really trips up a lot of people, is we have an image. Where are you? Images.html. And in this exact same folder is the image. So place them side by side. So make sure they're in the exact same folder. Make sure the typing is right. Make sure there's no typos. Make sure the spelling is right. Not the typing. Make sure the spelling is right. Make sure there's no typos or anything like that. And your image will, I guarantee you, work. Okay, so your task for this video, let's open up a new file here. Let's call it your task. Your task is going to be 1. I want you to create an image tag. And that source attribute should go to placeholder.com, one of the images on placeholder.com, just like I did in this video. 2, I then want you to save that image and change the src to be a relative link. So a relative URL. So get rid of that HTTPS and just make a relative link. And last but not least, I want you to link to this image. So you have an image, something like this. Actually, let's write this out first. Link to the image. I'll link to the placeholder.com image. So you're going to have something that looks something along these lines, and this is going to look a little ugly, and that's sort of on purpose. So ahref is equal to placeholder.com, whatever image.jpg. Source is equal to image.png, whatever your image is going to be, /a. So I want you to create a link around that image and make that image clickable. Once you are done all of that, let's head on over to the next lesson where we learn about something that's a little trickier to get our heads around, but ultimately will change the way you think about HTML elements.